What is going on, everyone? I hope yins are having a blessed day, because I can tell you who probably is not: the Miami Dolphins. Let's get into it. First, I would just like to declare that I'm an eligible thrifter. I thrifted this Dolphins sweatshirt a couple years ago, and I love it. I love the idea of having a dolphin wearing a football helmet, because I have childlike wonder like that. And so that's why I'm wearing this today, but also because it's in the news, because the Dolphins won on Monday Night Football, but at what cost? They did get their first win of the season against division rival New York Jets, but of course star wide receiver Tyreek Hill dislocated his knee and had multiple torn ligaments, to include his ACL, from that game, and was carted off in the middle of that contest. And it just doesn't look great right now for his future, with the Dolphins, or the Dolphins' future, for that matter, in general. Hill has already hinted that he does not want to play for Miami. He, of course, came out and apologized and released a whole statement about it, and wasn't voted as a captain this year. And so the jury's really out on where he wants to be and how he feels about being in Miami, because he did backpedal on that and did apologize. But the optics of him getting carted off the field, him clapping and cheering, maybe, being brave in the face of tragedy. Maybe he was just that tired of playing for Miami that he was so happy that he got taken out of competition by blowing his knee out. I'm not sure. That's what a lot of people online are saying. I certainly think it's up for interpretation. But he definitely did not look upset leaving the game on Monday night. So there's a couple of football teams that constantly come up in conversations of being bad, unlucky, just not having a good history, whatever. The Cleveland Browns are constantly subject to this kind of treatment. The New York Jets come up in this conversation. Up until recently, the Detroit Lions were in that conversation. And I think who doesn't get brought up enough is the Miami Dolphins. They are on an all-time bad streak of history. And I'm sure it's, so nice for Miami Dolphins fans to look back at the 1972 and 1973 seasons and think, well, we really had it all back then. It's not so bad. But it is bad. They're on an all-time bad streak of history. They last won a playoff game in the year 2000. That is the longest active drought in the NFL, going without a playoff win. That's 25 years now. In that time span, they have had 27 different quarterbacks suit up for the team, along with 10 head or interim head coaches. Just to put that into perspective, the Steelers have had 3 head coaches since the year 1968, with Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin. And all of those coaches won Super Bowl championships. The Dolphins last saw an AFC championship in 1992, losing to Buffalo. They last saw a Super Bowl in 1985. Of course, famously, that's the only Super Bowl that Dan Marino ever went to, and is now widely regarded as the greatest quarterback to never win the Super Bowl. And they last won the big game in 1973. 1973, cuz. That's back when O.J. Simpson was still a promising football player and not an alleged murderer, okay? And, again, just stepping back into time, there were 0 black quarterbacks starting in the NFL. It's crazy. They were just a couple of years removed from an AFL versus NFL championship. Time has changed so much. I need a DeLorean or something to step back into time, because great Scott is that bad that we have to go back that far for when the Dolphins were contending, when they were winning championships. It's insane. Again, I need my DeLorean, cuz. Hook me up. Need my time machine. So news did break today that Tyreek's surgery was successful, which is great. And his agent fully expects him to be able to play in 2026, with rehab obviously being the next step in physical therapy. But there's a huge question mark floating around right now just on his career as a whole. There was conversations of him slowing down to come into this year to begin with, and where he wants to be, if he doesn't want to be in Miami. And of course there were some trade talks, and is it even worth trading for him at this point, especially after this kind of injury at this point in his career? A receiver who really thrives on his elite speed, he's going to take a step back. That's to be expected. So huge question mark in his career right now, as well as the futures, I'd argue, of head coach Mike McDaniels, who is now without his star wide receiver and is already off to a really bad start to the season. I like McDaniels. I think he is a good coach, but people are impatient and ownership is impatient, and so it's just going to be hard to succeed without that piece there. And of course, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, he's under constant scrutiny for play and injuries and whatever else. And now he's without his number one target. So how's he going to perform this year? What's his future like post 2025? Is it still with Miami Dolphins? Does he get traded? Does he get cut? All these things in the air. And of course, Tyreek Hill doesn't really seem like he wants to be in Miami anyway, based on things that have come out in the past that he said, and certainly the body language, him leaving the field the other night. I can't remember another player ever being so happy to be injured, other than when Earl Thomas flipped Pete Carroll the bird when he was playing for the Seahawks. But even still, I don't know. It feels to me like the writing is on the wall, but it's certainly going to be a story to follow. And I'll leave you with this. Talk about how bad the Dolphins are. Everyone remembers the great Hootie and the Blowfish song, Only Want to Be With You, and Darius Rucker singing about, I'm such a babe here, the Dolphins make me cry. And he talked about when that song came out, a lot of people were like, wow, he's really conscious of the environment, and he wants to see efforts for conserving dolphins and, this kind of stuff and cleaning up the oceans, whatever. He's like, no, dude, I'm tired of the freaking Dolphins losing. He'll tell you that story. He's got Dan Marino in the freaking music video, and he's probably going to be crying about this Dolphin season too, because it is not looking good, But, thanks as always for tuning in just to hear my thoughts on the matter, and keep looking forward to more fun stuff like this. Not that, breaking your leg is fun, but fun for us to talk about at least, so, what I mean? It'll be all right, It'll be all right. But, yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm Jamin White. Thanks for tuning in to Jamin Cole Media as always. Peace out, Girl Scout.